Hardy and DeSoto, pretty nasty right now as far as the rain rates. And of course, there's our look at the rotation that we are watching for this tornado warning right around Limestone. Lily looks like right across Roberts Road. Those are the folks. Hunker down, get to your safe space, make sure you're just kind of hanging out there while we await for this to move out of your area. This tornado warning runs for the next 25 minutes or so.
One of the great things about the radar is being able to look inside the storm. And those greens are basically winds running toward the radar and reds running away from the radar. And where those two colors are intersecting, that is the indication of the rotation. When a radar sees this, it's going to send out that warning and saying, hey, there's rotation. Does it necessarily mean there's something on the ground? No, it doesn't. But we've seen so many times with these tropical situations, these tropical setups, that to the east and the northeastern side of the storm, I know we call it the dirty side or the messy side or whatever, but that is particularly where you're going to see a lot of these storms or these tornadoes form, and they're usually pretty quick. They come up and they drop back down again, and they're of course very unpredictable because there can be anywhere in some of these feeder bands. So really from Oak Grove to Ona to Myakka Head, folks, that's basically kind of where this rotation is going to move over. I'm not going to give you the all clear Zolfo Springs, but it does look like this activity, or at least this particular cell, is mainly to the west of the Zolfo Springs area. So from Zolfo Springs to really Myakka Head, that little stretch, and I know it is mostly a rural setup for you there along Highway 64 in Hardy County, but I've been through Ona before, I've been through Myakka Head, beautiful little towns. So we want to make those folks aware that we do have this rotation now. And when we see this and we pass this along to you, what I'm telling you in Hardy County and even that part of DeSoto County still under that warning is just to stay inside. Let's just take it easy, stay inside, get into that interior room. Now, not to be completely outdone, but behind that, look at all of this heavier rain, which is coming in from Venice, going all the way down to the Cape Coral and Sanibel area. So all that heavy rain producing winds well over 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gust, Val. So we got a couple different things going on right now, but most important right now, of course, is that circulation and that potential tornado in southwest Hardy County.
Right, and it looks like two areas of circulation kind of within that tornado warning. Dave got that one just on the south side of Arcadia there, that other one a bit farther north. So just goes to show a lot of dynamics, a lot of spin to work with in the atmosphere right now. We just have a lot of rotation working around Tropical Storm Debby. So we were saying it all morning long, these spin-ups are really going to continue to be possible with these really intense rain bands moving through. And as Dave just showed us, another one moving on shore of the coast right now and kind of going to continue to just rake across these areas, basically.
You know what we do? This is one circulation. I'll hit both of them, but let's get down to that street level and give people in Arcadia a really good idea. So this is where the rotation is. Now, I don't want you running off to the windows, folks, and seeing if you can see something. More than likely, it's going to be shrouded in rain, and I don't want you near the window. So this may be just a circulation within the clouds, but it could be something that's on the ground. That's why the warning gets issued. But right around, if you're going west of Arcadia, moving out of Arcadia along Highway 70, okay, that's where you're going to run into this circulation, maybe just before the Lansing area, before the Tryon area, and it's pretty much moving northwest at about 30 to 40 miles per hour. So it's kind of quickly moving forward, so we try to stay ahead of that circulation. Then as you go a little bit further north, we've got another circulation, and that's around the Limestone area and Bridges and Lily, and that's the one that we've been talking about, which is going to go between Zolfo Springs and Myakka Head. So that particular spot between Myakka Head and Zolfo Springs along 64, and those folks along 70 between Arcadia and Tryon. Those are the two places, Valerie, that we really want people to just stay inside. I know they're small little circulations, but they can whip up a tornado in very short order. It wouldn't last long, but if you're not ready, this can catch you by surprise, and that's why we're telling you in that particular spot of Hardy County and DeSoto County, let's just stay inside.
Absolutely. Stay inside. Today is a day for that, as, you know, we are just kind of getting going with this. So this is very typical when we're tracking these tropical storms to get these brief tornado spin-ups. You know, they can be very rain-wrapped. So as Dave was kind of mentioning, not worth trying to see if you can catch a picture, see what you can see outside. Not one of those cases at all, as very heavy rain rates also coming down within the mix.
Let's talk about those rain rates for a second, because, you know, again, this is where the potential isolated tornadoes are well inland, but right along the coast, these rainfall rates are nothing to sneeze at. I'm telling you, we've had some rainfall rates, and we'll put these on there for you. These are running 4, 5, 6 inches of rain per hour. Now, granted, that line of rain doesn't sit over you for an hour, but let's say it's for 30 minutes it did. You're going to get 2, 3 inches of rain in short order. Right. So this is why we're telling folks, listen, if you don't have to be outside, just hang inside, especially along the coast, because these are the kind of rainfall rates that we're going to have to contend with throughout the duration of this storm.
Yeah, today, tomorrow, we're going to continue to see these feeder bands kind of wrap around Tropical Storm Debby. And that one that's moving into the coast, that is going to generally kind of lifting off to the north here over the next couple of hours. So we will expect that to start to move inland. But it's these tornado warnings right around Arcadia. That's what we've been watching here over the last 30 minutes or so. Yeah. We saw one pop up about an hour ago. Then it kind of reignited as it was lifting off to the north and east. So kind of 2 areas of spin that we're watching there as Dave kind of zooms in on the Arcata area, giving you a better idea of exactly where that area of interest is.
If you do this, something like this, I mean, you're looking at 70, over 70, 75 miles. But again, if that's making it to the ground, but you are definitely seeing rotation right along 70 and 72 west of Arcadia. So we're looking at DeSoto County now, and this is where the rotation is occurring as it's very quickly rotating around to the northwest at about 30 to 40 miles per hour. So you see how fast it's moving. So as this comes roaring through the area, now maybe there is a tornado on the ground, or perhaps it's just in the clouds. Either way, this rotation is that sets the warning off, and that tells us to tell you, Lansing, Tryon, and even further north, where this other circulation is now getting ready to move just about over Highway 64. So between Ona and Myakka Head, well, how about Oak Grove and Myakka Head? I need everybody to just hang inside, give it another 15 to 20 minutes, just let that circulation move north of you, and that work its way up towards, say, the Duet, the Fort Greene Springs area, places like that. Well, Fort Greene and Fort Greene Springs and Old Duet, you're not technically in this tornado warning, but I want you to understand that just to the southeast of you, we have not one, but we have 2 circulations, and if either of those holds together, they're just going to continue that tornado warning for you as well. And ironically, even though the heaviest rains are right along the coast, we are concerned about these inland locations getting these little spin-up tornadoes, Val, which happens all the time in these landfalling or these, tropical systems. Looks like they just put a tornado watch out for us too as well. You see that? Just kind of popped up there in the last second. So again, this all makes sense. This is exactly what we've been anticipating, is that the rain is beginning to move in, and at least initially, and I think as the storm moves further north, you'll see more of these tornado warnings in central and northern parts of our state.
Yeah, so we will continue to be watching these, of course, with the tornado watch now out. We'll kind of zoom out. You can see all the areas included in that. Kind of runs from Alligator Alley all the way up the coast to the Big Bend. Yeah. Really all of the areas of interest for Tropical Storm Debby. And it's just kind of accounting for all of these feeder bands that are going to be really just kind of sweeping across the state and very capable of producing more of these spin-ups and more of these damaging winds and tornadoes. So that's something we'll be on high alert for, and we will continue to watch them, bring you updates if we have any more of these tornado warnings popping up.
Yeah, I'm going to stay with just for another couple minutes. I want to see this rotation one more time, because there's one, and then if we can track the other one too. Again, you're talking about two situations. I'm trying to separate them from each other, which is going to be hard to do, but okay, let me just clear it out and do one at a time then. I was trying to be over rambunctious.
Yeah, you know.
So let's go to the northern one first, and you're going to go, and these are the areas that we're talking about that are going to be in the path of this particular storm. Go ahead.
And we're talking motion about 45 miles per hour, Dave. So pretty quick moving as it's kind of zipping off to the north and west, and that's kind of what we saw out of it. Our original tornado kind of spin up, now where we're tracking this new one a little bit farther off to the north. So kind of training over these areas all.
Hello.
Hey.
I would like to introduce you to...
There he is, my guy.
Hey,
man. This guy is my tall king, buddy boy. My bro nail polish. This guy.
Remembering that one guy's name is hard. Hiring Morgan & Morgan for your injury is easy.
my man. Oh, man.
Morgan & Morgan. The choice is easy.
When you hire Farah and Farah, we're here for you 24/7. Before, during, and after your injury case.
Whether it's helping you find a doctor,
Trying to help you to get your car back faster.
helping you with pain management.
And if you can't come meet with us, we'll come meet with you here
Here
or wherever to talk about your case.
at Farrah and Farrah, we're here to make it easy.
It's a force that can't be contained, propelled by purpose, pride, and the power to protect.
When winning isn't just the mission, it's your passion. You pursue it.
You make power plays.
Aim for fences.
And go for end zones.
You believe that your moment is now.
At Farrah and Farrah, we deliver game day energy 24/7.
If you've been injured, put our force to work for you.
To the Tryon area. But now, if you're just north around Brownville Road, okay, and I don't know how many homes are out there, but you're on Brownville Road or the Lilly County Line Road, Kinsey, I need you in your safe spot. Let's get into that interior room because, again, you've got a decent circulation working its way northwest. So Kinsey and Limestone and Lilly and Bridges and Ona, Mayaca Head. And again, if this holds together in the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to back it out and put the radar back and put it all into motion for you because, Val, this is kind of just the beginning. We've got a lot of rain and a lot of weather and a lot of wind to get through.
Yeah, absolutely. As you just said, really just the start of Tropical Storm Debby. You can see where that center of circulation is. I mean, this is a very heavy storm at this point. I mean, you can see where that circulation is. We've been watching it all morning, Dave, as it's trying to really wrap itself around. But right now, we are in the thick of it. We are on the side of the storm where all of the really impressive rain and wind will be. But luckily, the brunt of that's still offshore. We're kind of on the outer edges of all of these bands moving through. And as we mentioned, these tornado spin-ups are very common on the right side of a tropical system like this. So we just have all of that broad rotation really working in the favor of any storms that might try and gain a little bit of strength. And, that area right near Arcadia kind of heading in the same direction of where that more northern rotation is right now. So kind of what we've been talking about, Dave, these training storms, they are going to be impacting the same areas for extended periods of time.
It's interesting to see what's happening in this storm is this convection is beginning to kind of bubble up and it's whipping around the center, and with the friction of the land you can definitely get a quick rotation. These, however, at least this one near the Pine Level area, is actually this is a very I'm going to call it a decent circulation. You're looking at that red sitting next to the green as well. And you can try to look inside and see what maybe the wind speeds are. And, a 24 and a 42. So you're looking at probably 60 mile or 70 mile per hour sort of shear there going on. And a lot of the tornadoes you'll get in these tropical systems are usually relatively weak, EF0, EF1. That doesn't make a difference because if that EF0, EF1 hits your house or hits something that is dear to you, it can be a problem. And that's why the tornado watch has been posted. Everything that we've been seeing is exactly doing what it's supposed to do. It's the rain, it's the wind. The only difference is that maybe we have an extended period of rain coming in through later tonight and tomorrow morning rather than having it end in the evening hours. That may be the only, I think, change overall. So let's go back and track these again if we can, Valerie. We'll start with this one up here around Highway 64, maybe weakening that signature a little bit, but nonetheless, still with that tornado warning.
Yeah, and it looks like kind of right around the Oak Grove, Ona area, into Mayaca Head. Those are kind of like the widespread areas where the general direction of this rotation is. So it is moving northwest. Those are kind of some of the areas in line for where this storm is heading. That's going to be Old Duet in the next 20, 25 minutes or so. Keentown closer to 30 minutes out. And granted, this is assuming that this kind of holds together. But regardless, this storm, this heavy rain, is certainly heading in your direction. And just behind that, kind of in the same general motion, expecting this area, which is quite a bit more impressive, just on the north side of Lansing there. Really kind of what we would consider very typical looking couplet as far as our velocity winds heading toward away from the radar, kind of that radar indicated rotation that we would look for in this situation.
Yeah, I'm going to put the velocity into motion, not just this will give you an idea. You can see the circulations as they move. You see this other one near the Ona area. See how it's beginning to kind of flatten out and maybe weaken just a little bit? Again, all normal. Typically these tornadic setups in tropical systems, they can spin up fast, but they typically don't last long. They lack some of the dynamics you would in a big severe weather setup. But again, with that friction of the land, they spin them up pretty quickly. So as that one's moving forward, this is the one as well. See how it's moving northwest. So Lily, Bridges, running through Kinsey right now. These are the areas that we need folks to stay inside. The first one came by and you're probably like, let's go outside and see what. No, there's another one behind it. But wait, Val, we're not done, because look, looks like there's another circulation behind that.
Yeah, and notice it's all in the same line. I mean, that area to the south of it is heading in the same direction where we are currently under this warning.
It's that outer band. And you're going to watch this outer band move northward throughout the day, and it's going to continually spark, I think, those little isolated tornadoes. Now, they'll be small in nature, and you'll probably be getting a lot of stuff crawling across your screen and stuff like that. But nonetheless, you get into the outer bands like that, and it's typically what happens with these tropical situations. But not to be outdone,
oh, there we go.
There we go, another tornado warning. So,
and it's worth noting, Dave, that this tornado watch, it runs until 8 o'clock. So that really includes a large part of the state. And that was kind of what we were expecting. We knew as we were heading through the morning hours in the afternoon, these rain bands would really start to ramp up activity. So here's what we have here. Now, extended till 11:30, that severe thunderstorm capable of producing tornado right now near Babcock Ranch, about 17 miles northwest of LaBelle. So this area, we're still talking about a quick motion, about 45 miles per hour.
Oh, you know what this is? You know what this is? This is the one that's behind it.
We've spoken into existence.
Wait, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak it into existence, but you can see it there. It's plain as day.
Yeah. We knew that
there's this other tornado. Now, this tornado, or apparent tornado, is going to move into a different part of DeSoto County. So you're talking about now a very rural area of DeSoto County, okay? So you're talking about east of Highway 17, where this next circulation looks to run through. And I'm going to go down to street level, and there's, again, Hog Bay Road. I've never been on Hog Bay Road in DeSoto County, but Hog Bay Road, you are under that tornado warning. Now, the tornado itself back south of Sparkman here. You can see that rotation in there, and it's moving north, just kind of pinwheeling around in the same direction as these other two rotations, although the one near Ona and Vandala, it looks like that one may be weakening a little bit, which is good. Again, these don't typically stick around for hours. They're usually pretty quick spin ups, and they spin right back down again. And then we have that one around Kinsey. So this is the one we need to focus on now. But those of you southeast of Arcadia, heads up, because it looks like that particular rotation is going to move right into southeastern DeSoto County, coming up in about maybe 10, 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, you know, we're still kind of watching that general motion northwest, about 40, 45 miles per hour. So not many places in line with that far southern spot, as you were mentioning. Yeah. It will be kind of moving into Sparkman, Vermont areas within the next, say, 10, 15 minutes or so, and then kind of further traveling off to the north, where maybe kind of gets up into those Joshua, Nocatee areas where they're not necessarily included in this warning, but they're kind of right in line with the general motion of where it is heading.
Yeah, so we're tracking three circulations. This is the southernmost circulation, going into the Sparkman area in about 6 minutes. South Fort, Fort Ogden, Nocatee, Hull, Platte. These are particular areas, again, in parts of DeSoto County where they'll be impacted by this as it's pinwheeling around to the northwest. And don't put your timer on Sparkman. It could be earlier than 6 minutes, but this is just sort of a general gauge to you to say, okay, you know, I live in the Fort Ogden area. You got about 20 minutes before this circulation passes. It gives you time to kind of get into your center part of your house and just kind of away from the windows as, again, we just watch these rotations just circle all the way around the actual center of Tropical Storm Debby, and again, you back it out. These are just the very fringe bands as well. Meanwhile, places like Sarasota and around Venice and Port Charlotte, you are getting incredibly heavy rain. And within some of those very, very heavy rain bands, Valerie, that's where we're going to get those 40 to 50 mile per hour winds. So just because you're not under this specific tornado warning in rural DeSoto County doesn't mean you can't have a couple of issues with these rain bands along the coast.
Yeah, I mean, we absolutely have already seen wind gusts up to that range. I guess it's worth noting a little bit of good news with those tornado-warned storms. Not seeing any hail, not really tracking the potential for any hail. And on top of that, not a whole lot of lightning embedded with those. So kind of some of the silver linings there. We could be talking some hail, some lightning. That's not quite as likely as these small spin-ups, these small areas of rotation. And, you know, as Dave was just mentioning, we have that rain band a little bit closer to the coast right now, hugging a lot of the southwest coast. That one, a lot of heavy rain, those winds starting to pick up, and then this kind of will travel inland. So we're watching the potential for more of these bands to cause these impacts away from the coast as well, where we're seeing them right now for DeSoto and Hardy. And so that is something that we're going to be watching through 8 o'clock. The center of circulation really going to kind of continue to scoot right past us, allowing for these dynamics to be in place this afternoon, this evening, for more of these warnings. So it's very important you have a way to get alerts, and you know your plan. You need to know where your safe place is. We've got a lot of tornado safety tips, but you know, you're always going to want to head to your interior spot. That is your safe space interior, no windows. That is going to kind of be what we're going to be talking about here with these areas dealing with these tornado warnings for the next 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, you know, since we're on, let's talk about the 11 o'clock advisory, which just came out. And
yes.
the winds are up to 65 miles per hour around the center of Tropical Storm Debby. And you can leave it right up. I just wanted to mention real quick, it makes sense because the storm is now beginning to strengthen, and the Hurricane Center is saying this storm is going to rapidly strengthen later today and tonight. So again, this is easily probably going to be a Category 1 hurricane. Could it be stronger than that? Wouldn't surprise me when you're dealing with those record warm water temperatures. It doesn't change the theme or the message that we kind of have for you folks out there, which is just a lot of rain and wind. Okay, the reason we are on right now is because we have these tornado warnings, and that's what we just want to make sure that we can get these done and everybody's safe. But typically, this is just going to be a lot of rain, and it's going to be a lot of wind. And then once the storm moves north of us, then you're going to get into the position, Valerie, where you have that storm surge coming in into the Tampa Bay area and areas north later tonight.
Yeah, you know, and that's a good point, Dave. It's not just these tornado areas that we're watching, but over the next couple of hours, you know, we have several warnings in place. Now the tornado watch in place, but we're talking a storm surge watch for the area. We're under a tropical storm warning, and we do have that flood watch as well. So we've been talking about the heavy rain to be one of the biggest impacts from this storm. We're already seeing that with those really intense rainfall rates for up to 6 inches rain per hour. So those are some pretty hefty rainfall rates, and overall, we'll continue to watch for the potential for these severe storms, these spin-ups to be possible in these outer rain bands as they continue to kind of move on shore. We're still talking about the center of circulation quite a ways away from us, so that is some good news there. We've got that pocket right around the core of the storm, which luckily is offshore.
You know, obviously we know these tropical systems multifaceted, but it seems like every time we're on this eastern side and we're dealing with the tornadoes and we're dealing with the storm surge, and that is the case again. Again, if you are just tuning in right now, we do have a tornado warning to pass along to you. Actually, a couple of tornado warnings ongoing. They are well inland. The big picture, again, is showing that you see all of this activity along the coast. That's very, very heavy rain, maybe some tropical storm force wind gusts in there, but at the same time, these very outer edge, these very outer bands, typically you get that little spin up, the friction of the land, the way it's turning, it all kind of adds to these little spin up tornadoes. And that is the one warning that I wanted to pass along to you as well. It's in the Lily area. Go back to the velocity, where you see that green next to the red. So around Limestone, Bridges, Lily, I hope everybody is just in an interior room, just staying inside. We're not going to the windows. We're not checking out to see if anything's on the ground. That's not what we're doing. Okay. Mayak ahead, about 16 minutes from now. I will tell you the circulation has really kind of held together as it's moving through that rural area. So heads up Mayak ahead, and all those folks along Highway 64 between Mayak ahead and the area, maybe even as far east as Oak Grove. Just stay inside Oak Grove to be on the safe side. Now, if you're watching in Zolfo Springs, while you are going to have some rain, I think your threat, it's off to your west. So basically everybody west of the Zolfo Springs area. And then you start to get up into Old Duet, Keentown, and just the Duet area in general. And then if it continues from there, then you're looking at southeastern Hillsborough County. Again, jumping ahead of myself. But sometimes in these outer bands, they'll just keep reissuing these little tornado warnings as they kind of whip around. That's the northern one. Let's go to the southern one, which is getting ready to go into DeSoto County. So it's right around the Sparkman area. Now, I will tell you that this part of DeSoto County is very rural, and I guess that's a positive in this situation. But let me track that for you. Okay, Val. Let's see. We're going to track this, moving northwest at about 40 miles per hour. So you're talking about Sparkman and Joshua and Nocatee and Hull and maybe even Arcadia if this holds together. So I know Arcadia has been under multiple warnings so far today, and it's just where that very edge of the rain band is setting up, and that's why it's happening in the same spots over and over again. So around 20, 25 minutes from now, Arcadia, I just want you right back into where you are now. Just kind of stay where you are, stay in place, stay inside, stay away from the windows, and we should be safe from these. They're very pesky and they're very annoying, but again, if one of them does drop down in your particular town, it could briefly cause some damage.
Yeah, we're looking at the northern warning, watch rather, to expire any minute now, unless they reissue it. This one on the south side, that one is extended to 11:30. So
yeah, these ones on the north side, you see those little circles, okay, on the radar, and what that is telling us is that radar is saying, listen, I see rotation right here. That's what that little circle is telling us. So even though that tornado warning has expired, the potential obviously is there for them to just reissue it or just expand it or move it forward along that same line. So we're going to hang with you. There it is.
Stop speaking it into existence. But yeah, you really do. You see in both of those areas that you highlighted there that the radar is indicating. You can really clearly see why radar is picking up on those.
Yeah, so tornado warning for western Hardy County, northeastern Manatee County, southwestern Polk County, and southeastern Hillsborough County. So what they've done, Val, is they've literally just reissued this warning up here, this one to the north. And let's spend some time on this because now you're getting into parts of, again, Manatee County, maybe even southeastern Hillsborough County. This is what they're concerned about, is that storm that is near Ona, or 11 miles southwest of the Wauchula area. So again, there you go. This is the one they're concerned about. It looks like this one right here.
Right.
This is, and moving from southeast to northwest and just kind of pinwheeling around this whole area. So look, there's not one, there's two, and then there's another one behind it as well. So let's track this one again because this is the one that they are concerned about now. And it makes sense because you do have two distinct areas of rotation, especially this one to the south where you're seeing that really bright green next to that bright reddish color. Gives you an idea of what's kind of going on. So let's just do that. And there you go. If you just want to talk through a couple of those towns and the times they're coming.
Yeah, let's go ahead and look at the kind of the timing that we're watching here because this is still moving pretty quickly here, fast paced, about 40 miles per hour north and west. So of course we're getting into some of those more populated areas as these are trialing up. Now a section of Hillsborough included in that, but these are some of the areas that are in line to be seeing the storm move through. Maybe not still considered a tornado rotation area, but that is certainly the potential here over the next 20 minutes or so. Fort Lonesome, about 12 minutes out from you. We'll look around Edison, Lithia, closer to that 20-minute mark. Fishhawk, Boyette, 25 or so minutes, and then that continues up into Bloomingdale, Durant areas closer to about the 30-minute mark. So just to give you an idea of some of the areas where this is heading. And, this is a pretty good line of rotation. As we were just talking about these 3 areas really all in line, you can really see exactly where that track is coming from with that outer rain band as it continues to move through these areas. Not a surprise that we're seeing these little couplets, these little spin-up areas that the radar is picking up on. 2 right now, really distinct, I would say. Just
this area next to bridges too.
Yeah.
So this area next to bridges, you can see that looks like there's some debris that has been lofted into the air. And you see that by looking at this particular map, because it's looking for uniformity and it's giving it the same color. But now you've got debris moving in a different direction. It doesn't really get an idea of what that is, so it gives it that color. That color is an indication to us that there's potentially has been some debris in and around that area. Now keep in mind, this is also a very rural area as well, and just to the west of Ona. So that's why I'm telling you, from Myakka Head to Ona and areas northwest of that, I need you to just stay inside for a little bit. Just hang this one, just stay inside. Just don't even need to go out and look at what's going on, because there is likely something happening, some type of a rotation that's perhaps hit the ground in that spot, and it has picked up a little bit of debris.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking for. As we are tracking these from a radar perspective. So when the radar starts to pick up on that debris, it gives us kind of a better indication that there may actually be some of that rotation touching the ground, whereas, we could just be talking aloft and more of that rotation that's not necessarily putting a tornado on the ground. But we're closely watching that debris detector, especially on that four northern area that Dave was just highlighting there, kind of outside of those areas. So you can kind of see them there on that rotation detector.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is this is what our shear detector is, and you can see the shearing in the storm, sort of the winds moving away from the storm and toward the storm. And what it does is it shows us this is where there's potential rotation, and it shows you with the green being sort of a weak rotation. But notice around bridges, in the last frame, that little red spot there. So there's some strong rotation happening within that particular cell that's moving right past Ona to the west. So that's, again, what's prompting this tornado warning to continue and to move along. So that's the one I'm concerned about, is between Myakka Head and Ona. And I want everybody in that area, I'm going to put the radar back on, to just stay inside. And I know there's not a ton of rain associated with this. It is that big cell and that potential circulation, and there's kind of nothing to the east and nothing to the west of that. So you say to yourself, hey, nothing's going on, let me go outside. Not the time to do that. Let's just stay inside in that interior room. We're just away from windows. As again, we're getting at least the radar indicating to us that there is a circulation and that there might be some debris that has lofted up within that circulation as well.
Yeah, and Dave, it's important to note, kind of different from our typical tornadoes we'd be tracking. When we have these kind of tropical-based tornadoes, a lot more just the rotation, the dynamics in the atmosphere for these to kind of quickly spin up and spin back down. So not necessarily what we may be talking about with some of our other tornado-warned storms, where maybe we can see it a little bit clearer on radar, maybe a longer-lasting, longer-tracking tornado. But it's going to be these brief ones that we'll be continuing to keep an eye on, the potential for them to just pop up pretty quickly, which is basically what we've seen over the last hour with this outer rain band continuing to move through parts of southern central Florida areas.
And then, of course, we got the tornado warning to the south of that. You can see that right there. And that is extreme southeastern DeSoto County. Now, Arcadia, Nocatee, Joshua, you're the folks that I just need you to stay inside. I keep telling everybody to stay inside in DeSoto County. Everybody in DeSoto County, just stay inside for an hour. We should hopefully be better. No, but that particular cell, you see, it's going to probably run right up through the Joshua area. So just kind of follow the way that is moving. You see that red next to the green, plain as day. I'll even get it. I'll zoom in just a little bit more just to give you a better. There's Sparkman. Most of this area between Sparkman and Joshua is farmland. It is rural farmland. So that is obviously a good thing. But there are some folks that live in the Joshua area just east of Arcadia. And I want you folks to just get into that interior room. And you're saying, but Dave, I want to be able to hear you. Turn your TV up. right? Turn it up real loud. Just get into that interior room. Just kind of get away from that particular circulation. It'll come through very quickly, and that situation will be over for you. It's not going to be long-lasting where I need you to stay in that interior room. But just to be on the safe side, between Sparkman and Joshua, and I know there's not much, there's a few, Pine Island Street, Hog Bay Road, areas like that, Southeastern County Road 760, I believe that is. I should get my glasses for this one. And around Joshua. Please just get inside, and that is what the southern tornado.
When people stop me to ask, what's my case worth, here's what I tell them. All law firms are not the same. You see, the most important part of anyone's injury case is the firm you hire. The insurance company knows exactly which firms fight for full value and which firms will settle your case for pennies on the dollar. Our firm has recovered billions and billions and billions. $3 billion last year alone. There's only one Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
It's a force that can't be contained, propelled by purpose, pride, and the power to protect.
When winning isn't just the mission, it's your passion. You pursue it.
You make power plays.
Aim for fences.
And go for end zones.
You believe that your moment is now.
At Farrah and Farrah, we deliver game day energy 24/7.
If you've been injured, put our force to work for you.
WeatherTight Windows knows you rely on the highest quality windows to protect your family. That's why we partner with PGT, the leading window manufacturer in Florida. All PGT WindGuard windows are designed and tested for hurricane protection. At WeatherTight, you can count on expert installers and the highest quality windows. Oh, and don't forget the cookies. Give WeatherTight a call for your family's safety and peace of mind this hurricane season.
WeatherTight Windows. The right talent.
The right attitude.
The right game plan.
The right amount of fight, pride, and determination.
When everything comes together, you just feel it.
And you'll let nothing get in the way of your goal.
You're ready to step up, meet the moment, and play to win.
If you've been injured, put our force to work for you.
Farrah and Farrah, here for Tampa, here for good.
There we go. Okay, there we go.
Avoiding campfire smoke is hard.
Is this for real?
Hiring Morgan & Morgan for your injury is easy. Morgan & Morgan. The choice is easy.
Everybody just wants to be heard, and they want to find somebody they can trust and work with them. You can count on Westfall Roofing because we care. Westfall Roofing, the roofer you can count on.
An injured worker left me a message that said, "You probably won't call me back. I'm just a nobody." I called him right back. Nobody's a nobody, and no one deserves a better firm than you.
When Morgan said nobody is a nobody, I felt like that. And they took care of me, and now we're doing okay. Thank God that I went to Morgan & Morgan.
It's a force that can't be contained, propelled by purpose, pride, and the power to protect.
When winning isn't just the mission, it's your passion. You pursue it.
You make power plays.
Aim for fences.
And go for end zones.
You believe that your moment is now.
At Farrah and Farrah, we deliver game day energy 24/7.
If you've been injured, put our force to work for you.
Area where we are seeing some of that radar indicated rotation that could be possible there. So all of these areas, we're going to be closely watching them. We've got that other one just to the south and east of Arcadia where we're still continuing to see that pretty nice couplet.
It's just, they're so at least right now, they're just easy to see where the rotations are. But I don't think people realize that more than likely, these are not out there all by themselves. They're kind of wrapped in some very heavy rain bands, disguising themselves. So that's why we tell you, when you just need to get inside, you need to get inside.
And, that's what we're seeing on all of our weather cameras. They are just absolutely soaked in with all of the heavy rain. We talked about some of the rain rates that we were just kind of checking out with some of the other storms that are continuing to move into the area. And let me zoom out a little bit and show, because we've got these tornado warnings right now, DeSoto, Hardy, and then we zoom out where more of those rain bands moving on to the coast. So this is really...
When you hire Farah and Farah, we're here for you 24/7, before, during, and after your injury case.
Whether it's helping you find a doctor,
Trying to help you to get your car back faster.
helping you with pain management.
And if you can't come meet with us, we'll come meet with you here
Here
or wherever to talk about your case.
at Farah and Farah, we're here to make it easy.
My name is Lyris Garcia. I went into a pizzeria, and next thing I know, I'm on the ground. So I ended up going to the emergency room. The very next day, Morgan & Morgan took charge. They were able to get me exactly what I deserve and then some. It's about 100 times more than what they offered initially. It was a substantial amount. It was life-changing. Anybody I come across, I'll stop. Hey, do you need a lawyer? Call Morgan & Morgan. The choice is easy. My name is Lyris Garcia. I went into a pizzeria, and next thing I know, I'm on the ground. So I ended up going to the emergency room. The very next day, Morgan & Morgan took charge. They were able to get me exactly what I deserve and then some. It's about 100 times more than what they offered initially. It was a substantial amount. It was life-changing. Anybody I come across, I'll stop. Hey, do you need a lawyer? Call Morgan & Morgan. The choice is easy.
And make people understand, if you live along and west of I-75, it's going to be a very wet, rainy mess from this afternoon all the way through until tomorrow morning. Multiple inches of rain, tropical storm force wind gusts. Now, we're not going to get the core of the storm. That's going to be the Big Bend area now. But at least for the afternoon hours today into the evening, we got the isolated tornado situation, and it looks like we got another one. I think people can hear the printer by now.
Yep, probably. And, we've been on air tracking these storms when the 11 o'clock advisory came out. But just in case you're kind of joining us in that 11 o'clock advisory, we did see some additional strengthening from Tropical Storm Debby. Latest advisory has those sustained winds about 65 miles per hour. So a very large, a very broad storm, and you can see that as we zoom out. I'll zoom out a little bit further to show you where this tornado watch is. You can see from about Tallahassee all the way down to the south of Naples. And that even extends to the East Coast through Orlando, Port Orange, up into Jacksonville. I mean, Dave, that's a lot of Floridians right now under this tornado watch. Just kind of goes to show what we are looking forward to, anticipating rather, through the rest of today. This watch up till 8 o'clock tonight.
That warning that just came over the printer there really was sort of a reissuance of that southern tornado warning, the one that's near Arcadia as well. So at about 11:30, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located 10 miles southeast of southeast Arcadia. They wrote southeast twice. Okay, or 11 miles southeast of Arcadia. So it's moving north at about 35 miles per hour. This is the one that came from just to the south. It was around the Sparkman area, and now it has moved northward. But again, right now you're talking about it being in a very rural area. With that said, it's getting ready to kind of move northward and right into, say, the Joshua area, which is just east of Arcadia. And it's moving about 40 miles per hour. So, and you can see the path, and on the path, if this was held together, you can see, Valerie, some of the towns that could be in the path of this particular cell.
Yeah, as Dave was just mentioning, Joshua, only about 5 or 6 minutes out from that. And then we get into Kinsey, Gardner, closer to 20 minutes out. And as we continue to kind of watch for that track to head to the north and northwest, Zolfo Springs still about 30 minutes south of you, but not out of the question that this may hold together as it kind of continues to lift north, northwest, moving pretty quickly quickly. I think still close to that 40 mile per hour range. So that's worth noting. I mean, these are very quick moving at the very least. And then we'll kind of switch you back over to the rain and see what we're seeing as far as some of the downpours associated with that. Not too intense, actually. We could be dealing with much heavier rain. We could be seeing some hail cores in this. We're not seeing any of that. So it's really just the radar indicated rotation that is prompting these watches, these warnings, and will continue to do so. I think this one extended now out a little bit longer from what we were expecting it to expire.
It goes till noon. The southern one goes till noon. That northern one goes until 11:45. So we've got a solid another 27 minutes, and that's assuming that they dissipate. I mean, if that rotation is still there, what they'll do, the Weather Service, is they'll just continue to keep reissuing it as we follow it along. And there it is, just southwest of Fort Greene. Do you see that little pixelated color? That is debris. That means a tornado has come down. It's picked something up, kind of rotating around. The radar's looking at it and not recognizing it as typical rain or what we would normally see. And that's what we're looking at. So that's why, again, that tornado warning has been extended. So places like Fort Greene and Fort Lonesome and Brewster, even though you are still well removed from that tornado warning, I want you to just get inside and just kind of stay inside, because the way the situation is developing is that these big spiral bands wrapping around the center of Debby. You've got the friction of the land, and then boom, they just pop up really, really quick. Sometimes they really don't last long, but the point is sometimes they're quicker than we can get on the air. And so that's why I'm telling everybody, especially with these tropical tornadoes, that, they aren't typically known to produce major tornadoes, but they can produce damaging tornadoes. And that's maybe what we've seen with some of that debris over there in parts of Hardee and DeSoto County.
Yeah, and even though, as you mentioned, typically weaker tornadoes that we get out of these tropical systems still, can do some damage. So that's nothing to not take seriously here. And, we look at this storm that's, near the Fort Greene, just kind of north and west of the Vandala area. And as we mentioned, kind of moving now into more populated areas. So a lot more cities there on the track map of where this storm would be going, just kind of give you an idea of some of the cities that will be in line to see the rain, but potentially what we are watching for the rotation still for these areas. As you can kind of see that area of interest there, and we'll kind of switch you over to some of the velocity radar indicated areas that we're watching here, because that is one of the big things that we're keeping a close eye on. Is there actually rotation? And we talked about the debris, which goes to show that there is something that's being picked up on. You can kind of see that icon there where it tries to highlight it as we play that loop back.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're kind of getting to an intersection now where you got southeastern Hillsborough County in there, northeastern Manatee, and southwestern Polk. So if you're living in southwestern Polk County, you probably got that warning on your phone. Okay, so this one cell, which is rotating, is going to move over that little section where it intersects almost like 3 or 4 counties. Okay, it's a very small section. So let's say southwest of Baird, southwest of Brewer, not around Fort Meade. You're okay for Fort Meade, but from Fort Lonesome to Brewster to Baird, in that particular spot, that's where I want people to just take cover. Take cover, just get into an interior room. If you're watching me, you're probably inside already anyway. So just get into an interior room, just get away from windows, and let's let this pass. So it's going to pass right past Fort Greene, probably doing that right now. That's State Highway 62. So areas east of Duet, but yet right around Fort Greene and Fort Greene Springs, that's where that rotation is. And just watch it as it moves northwest, so possibly putting it somewhere between Fort Lonesome and Brewster in maybe about 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, and, and we kind of look forward for what's more to come. And that other rain band that we've been watching along the coast, Dave, you can see it kind of expanding a bit more. It's pushing its way inland. Still a very nasty band, though. All of those bright colors indicating all of those intense rainfall rates coming down. And, already with how slowly it's kind of been moving over the coast, we're likely already seeing some rain add up. So that
look
is
at these
going
rainfall.
to be...
You got almost 2 inches of rain, 2.8 inches of rain that have come down just west of Fort Myers, around Port Charlotte. They've had almost 3 inches of rain, a little over 2.5, okay? But this is just the beginning. We're going to see a lot more in the coming hours, and that's going to lead to the other issues which we have, which include, of course, the flash flooding.
And, you know, and that's worth noting is that as we're kind of watching these tornado spin-ups, it could make it difficult for any crews as this event goes on. And, you know, maybe there are some impacts coming from Tropical Storm Debby. We're talking about potentially any tornado damage that would make it a little bit tougher for crews to be getting out and about. Of course, we're not really talking about a high likelihood for that in our area, but can't rule it out as we are watching the potential for more of these severe storms, more of this tornadic activity to be possible across our area pretty much all day today, as this is going to be an ongoing event with Debby. Even into tomorrow, still all of these rain bands continue to move through the area. So just kind of getting going here, and already quite a lot of tornado activity.
By the way, I'm not a very good drawer, so I apologize for that terrible looking circle. But I'm trying to circle the two circulations and the reason we're on right now, okay? The reason we're on is because of these two tornado warnings. Now, the northern one, kind of west of Bowling Green, it is west of Bowling Green. You see that signature, and then a very sharp signature, which was happening just now east of the Arcadia area. So let me go north to south, if you want to talk a little bit about this, Val, just about this circulation heading out of now Hardy County and right into portions of southeastern Hillsborough, southwestern Polk as well.
Right, something we'll be closely watching because kind of, you know, now we're talking about 3-4 counties included in that what's a very small tornado warning, but, you know, we're kind of accounting for the direction that it is moving. So originally, a lot of these have been kind of training over some of our, you know, more isolated, more rural inland areas. Now we're getting into the thick of it, where some spots around Polk Highlands could start to see potentially some of these warnings triggered as we're watching all of that rain, all of that rotation that is moving in that direction. So the general motion of these storms, Dave, to the northwest pretty quickly. We're talking 40, 45 miles per hour. So things can change really quickly as we're tracking these storms. You know, where will this kind of rotation end up here in the next 20 or 30 minutes? Will it hold together? If so, you know, we're talking about southern parts of Hillsborough County possibly seeing this warning extended into those areas.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because if you look at that area to the right with all the towns and how much time, this is assuming it holds together. Because I've got friends, and I know people in Fishhawk and Boyette are like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on? Listen, there is a circulation off to your southeast. It's headed northwest. I'm giving you a heads up that maybe you just want to kind of sit inside and hang this one out. Not saying that circulation is going to make it to you. It may fall apart before that, but it may not. Will you run the radar and I'll do that? Okay. How's that sound? Okay, so there we go.
Got a little face action on it, Dave. Yeah.
Can you want to swing that camera around? We'll just kind of give you an idea. So this is northwestern Hardy County. Okay, and you know, Val's going to help to run this for me so we can kind of, because I can't do it now that I'm standing over here. This is just the first circulation that we've been talking about as it moves. Here's Fort Lonesome. Okay, so then you've got the Fort Greene area as well, and that's where your particular rotation is right now as it's moving northwest at about 35 to maybe 40 miles per hour. And that rotation has been really kind of holding together now for about 30 to 40 minutes in general. And as it moves to the northwest, now it's going to move into southeastern Hillsborough County, into northeastern Manatee County. Now you start to get into an area that's just a little bit more populated as you're getting more toward the north and the west. And the interesting thing about that is these have been kind of holding together on the very fringe, the very edge of some of these heavier rain bands and some of these outer bands with the storm. So do they want me to stand? They want me to see where I'm going to go?
Okay. I'm sorry, Lewis. What'd you say? We're talking to our people behind the scenes.
Yeah,
there now.
Are
you on?
There we go. So again, if you're just tuning in, we do have two tornado warnings. The one that we're honing in on right now is northwestern Hardy County, going into southeastern Hillsborough County. Not only there, but you can see how that is continuing to pinwheel around the actual center of where Tropical Storm Debby is, which is 100 and something miles offshore. This is a very large system, okay? And there have been many times when we've had storms pass us on the west, and we don't get a lot of rain. We don't get a lot, but this time is different because this is very wet. And this storm system, as it rolls north and rolls north of us, will continue to just dump all kinds of rain, very heavy rain, and some of those outer fringes, outer bands will contain the potential for severe weather and tornadoes. And that's what we have now in northwestern Hardee County and in southeastern DeSoto County. Can you guys put me in front of this map? Is that possible to put me in on this map so I can kind of show things here real quick while Val runs through them?
They're working on it.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I just want to so right to the east of Arcadia now, maybe around the Joshua area, we've got that tornado warning, and that's moving northwest. And then you've got the other one, which is in northwestern Hardee County. So we got two really kind of in the same vicinity as we've had. And they're just pinwheeling around, moving up at about 40 miles per hour or so. And that forward speed, you can see places like Fort Lonesome, Lily Bridge, Welcome. Welcome, 18 minutes or so. Edison, again, these are some smaller towns. This is assuming that rotation holds together. Let's see what happens, because I know at 11:45 that particular tornado warning was supposed to expire. But if you look at it and you kind of detect and you kind of see that overall, we still have a little bit of that rotation. Even if it's broadly, it's kind of loose, we're still going to have to watch this as it moves northwest and sort of heads up into southeastern portions of Hillsborough County. So this is Hillsborough County, this is Polk County, this is Hardee County, and this is Manatee County. That's the intersection of those four little counties there. And that's what this rotation is moving from southeast to northwest, at about 35 to 40 miles per hour. And then the other one that we have, which is just to the south of this, and this one has actually been holding together as well. This one just north of Joshua now. It is east of Arcadia. So the good news is Arcadia, this is Highway 17, by the way, as you go through Brownville and then Gardner. Love Highway 17, gorgeous, gorgeous from Wauchula all the way down. Anyway, so east of 17, here's Arcadia. There's your rotation. It is to your east. Joshua, it just passed Joshua, and it's moving north to northwest. So be careful around the Gardner area. If you can put this, let's put this into motion, this velocity. Watch this signature. Just kind of move to the northwest. See that? We can just follow that up. So again, Gardner, Buchanan, places right along Highway 17 between, let's say, Wauchula and Arcadia. Let's get inside. It's a very small rotation. I understand that. But let's just get inside, let this pass. It's going to come quickly flying through 35 to 40 miles per hour. And then we can come back out, let our guard down just a little bit, okay, for that particular cell. So backing it out more, we got some just tremendous amounts of rain, too, right along the coast. And it's only going to be a matter of time before these areas along the coast start to pick up some flooding. And, you know, these rainfall rates, we were checking them earlier, they're like 5-6 inches of rain per hour. Now, granted, it's not going to rain for an entire hour from that one band. But let's say it does for 20 or 30 minutes. Well, 2-3 inches of rain is still a lot to get in a very short period of time. So right along the coast, some of this heavy rain is going to start to pond, it's going to start to pool, and going to start to create an issue over the next few hours. And it's just kind of watching this all unfold. There again, your tornado warning. Looks like the one to the north, did they let that expire?
Yes, they did.
They did let that expire. Okay, we're down to one tornado warning. Okay, so if there are no more issued, we'll get off at noontime, okay? How does that sound for you? Because that's when this ends. But again, here's Wauchula. And I want you to notice that this particular line or this particular cell is moving northwestward toward that Wauchula area. So we're going to go back into our velocity mode. Let's track this. Let's see how this storm kind of rolls up, maybe 40 mile per hour forward speed moving up to the northwest. And you're going to start to see some of those towns likely along Highway 17 just kind of pop, popping up. So that's why I'm telling you, if you live in Hardee County right now, I honestly don't matter. It doesn't matter where you live, to be completely honest with you. Let's just stay inside. Right? I mean, I know this is just a very small circulation in Hardee County, but it's also close to populated areas like Brownville and Gardner. If you've never been up and down Highway 17, beautiful places here. So Brownville, Gardner, Buchanan, and then even northward from there, Limestone to Moffett to Bridges. I just want you to stay inside. That's it. Just stay inside, get into an interior room. Let's let this circulation pass. And you get the green next to the red like this. That's a sign that the storm is rotating, okay? And that's what we've been seeing all morning long. And in some cases, we've seen on the debris locator, the debris tracker, that there has been some debris that has been picked up by this as well. So, and that's the tough thing about tornadoes, Val. And I'm going to turn it back over to you in a second, is that it's just like you see the circulation and you see, but sometimes you just don't know what's going on the ground, which is why we stick with you, because we want to make sure that everybody out ahead of this storm knows that you have that potential as well. And so that debris tracker, we had a little bit in there earlier. How's it look now?
Well, it looks like the one on the north side, that was the one that we were able to detect.
That was the one that was getting the debris. Perfect. Well, not perfect, but that one is the one that they let expire.
Right.
So the one that to the east now, the debris tracker, not that it couldn't be any, but it's not picking up anything, which is actually a better sign, whereas that one to the north, see that debris? Watch that warning. See the debris? Boom, to the north, and now it's gone, so an indication that that is weakened. And now this one right here, a little concerned that it's getting ready to move over Highway 17. So from Wauchula, you're going down to the Brownville, to the Gardner area, to Brownville. This whole stretch of Highway 17, let's just hang inside. Just give it maybe 20 minutes or so, and then just let this move to the northwest, and hopefully that will be it from there. Let me go back over to Val for a couple of minutes. I don't want to leave you until about 12, until this particular tornado warning has expired. So we'll head back over to you, Val, for a sec.
All right, let's check out the rain, because we're looking a lot at the velocity, but here's our classic kind of rain indicator right now, where we're seeing that tornado warning right now. You could see that kind of blob of rain on the radar. Some pretty intense rain rates coming down, but it's a very small area, so you can kind of see where this is the area that we're watching here. We've got this kind of couplet where we've been talking about it, but when we see this red and green so close together like this, that is an area where we are watching for some potential rotation aloft. Now, we talk about the potential for some of that debris, as Dave was just mentioning a minute ago. That gives us an indication that there is something potentially on the ground that is causing some of that debris to kind of move around. Whatever it may be, we could expect some of that. So, as we kind of look at where that rain is now, let me put this in motion so you can kind of see the general track of this. This was on the far outer rain band. We'll zoom out a little bit more, and we can watch over the last 30 minutes or so as it started to move into these areas. We quickly saw that strengthening. Then we're kind of watching them weaken out just a little bit. You notice that one on the north side as it kind of pushed into parts of Hillsborough County, not really seeing any of that rotation following it up to the north and west, which is a good sign. We were a little bit concerned that maybe that rotation would kind of continue off to the north and west into those areas. So it's just this little area right now between Brownville and Gardner that we're concerned with.
Look at that little hook there, too. You go over to velocity, and boy, this thing has been hanging together since it was south of DeSoto County, and now it's getting ready to move through another county as well. A very interesting.
Just kind of shows, yeah, the dynamics, I guess you could say, in place to allow for this to just kind of continue. You can see it kind of just on the south side of the county, then it kind of moves all the way through, just about to be moving out of that area. But we will continue to watch this here. This tornado warning, at the very least, is set to expire at noon. Can't completely say that they will not recontinue it, but at this point, you know, depending on how this area of rotation continues to look as it's moving to the north and west, I think will determine if they decide to reissue that as it's kind of heading in the general area of Ona, Zolfo Springs, some of the spots where we just saw that last warning expire. So it just kind of goes to show, Dave, when we get these issues, They can be for the same areas, rather. I mean, this has been 2 hours where these two counties have been under some form of an advisory here, with these tornado spin-ups potentially continuing to prompt some tornado warnings for those areas. Now we have the entire area under a tornado watch as we kind of take a look at the big picture here.
You see some of those rain bands bumping up against the coast, and I want people to realize just how heavy those rain bands are. In fact, now this is a sky-worn spotter. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure that this is, well, anyway, storm surges now over the canal wall at Tierra Verde.
Oh, wow.
And listen, when you get a surge of rain to come on shore like that, it's going to bring with it some pretty gusty winds as well. So you can see what's going to happen is that this water is just going to continue to pour in, and then the rain's going to continue to pour down, but then the rain can't drain out. It's typically what happens around here, and that's when we get ourselves into a situation where we have some flooding. So while you may not have any flooding at your house right now from Cape Coral to Port Charlotte, Sarasota Springs, and Bradenton, understand that hours and hours in these waves of rain are going to accumulate. And that's why we tell folks, listen, you just hang inside. Unless you got to be somewhere today, just let it rain, a little wind, and just sit inside and you kind of stay out of the whole situation.
Well, and I think that's one issue with the track that Tropical Storm Debby is taking. I mean, this is just going to be jogging pretty much parallel to the West Coast for a good portion of the day before it takes that turn to the north and east. So you can really see how that reflects the rain bands that we're seeing. We get what's called training, where they kind of follow the same general path. And so that means whether it's tornado warnings, whether it's heavy rain, those will kind of move over the same areas because of that general motion of Debby and the way that the storm is traveling.
Let me show you something real quick. And look at,
oh my gosh,
that's the rain.
Incredible.
Okay, so you saw where our radar, and this is the Key West radar. So we can take that rain from Cape Coral and drag it. It's all the way back down into parts of Cuba. So the point we're trying to make is that some of the heaviest rain for us may not happen until after the center is north of Tampa, because that's going to drag all that training rain up into our region. So let's say, you get 40-mile-per-hour winds, 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and some rain today. Say, oh, it's over. It's not necessarily over when we have all that training rain coming in behind it.
Yeah, and that's a good point, too. Of course, that moisture fetch on the south side of the storm, that's going to be a concern for us, even well past the circulation moving to the north of us. But it's also when we get that onshore flow, because at this point, offshore flow is going to continue until the storm center of circulation gets north of us. Then that's when we expect the storm surge issues to ramp up. So Dave was just reading us that report of storm surge already becoming an issue. We're just going to watch for that more later on in the day. So this is not, a short-lived event. We are just getting going. And really, where we have been seeing these tornado watches, that's the far outer bands of Debby. So we've got more of those bands going to be moving through as the storm continues to kind of skirt past our coastline, still well offshore, but we're talking tropical storm force winds about 140 miles out. So just kind of puts it into perspective how far-reaching the impacts can be, even though it's just a tropical storm at this point, likely becomes a hurricane late tonight, early tomorrow morning before making a landfall. But beside that point, this is the area of interest right now for that tornado warning. So we'll zoom in a little bit more. Those are some of the cities in line as it's generally moving to the north-northwest. 35 miles per hour. It does look like it's actually traveling pretty close to due north at this point. So Buchanan, Moffett, Zolfo Springs, those are the areas where if this holds together, where it has been able to hold together for a good 20, 30 minutes or so, where we are watching this potential radar indicated rotation.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell everybody from Gardner to Wauchula and everybody in between along Highway 17 to let's just stay put, okay? We're going to stay in our interior rooms. Let's just see what happens. Now, this tornado warning does go until noon. Now, with that said, let's see if they extend it. I want to stay on the air till noon to see if they extend it, but I'm telling you, Wauchula, Sulphur Springs, Moffett, Buchanan, Gardner, where that particular rotation is, and it's kind of moving north along Highway 17. Something else to report here from Pinellas County, from Treasure Island, the seawater topping the seawalls in Sunset Beach. Bayshore Drive is closed from West Gulf Boulevard to Sunset Beach Park. That's 77th Avenue. High water vehicle access only. So obviously we're seeing with some of these heavier rain bands come on that is starting to cause a little bit of coastal flooding as well. And I know that's not why we're on right now, but I thought while we were on tracking this tornado warning, we'll at least pass some of that stuff along to you as well. Flooding is also being reported. Ham radio operator Skywarn Spotter in South Cape Coral. Commercial power is also out in that area as well. So everybody has to understand one thing about tropical systems. They are always different. Every single one of them is different. Idalia is different than this one. Even though Idalia passed just to our west, we're obviously seeing a lot more rainfall and the potential for some pretty strong winds with this particular storm, because this is very lopsided at the moment, and all the activity, or most of the activity, is on the eastern side.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are kind of in the thick of it right now as far as where the most action is with this storm. We'll kind of zoom out, as Dave was just mentioning, a very east side heavy storm. So typically expect this activity in the right quadrants of a tropical system. That's where we have more of the dynamics in place to see these tornado spin-ups like we've seen over the last couple of hours. And really with this tornado watch landing until 8 o'clock, I think that's a pretty good call. As we've been talking about that, there is the potential for all of these areas to be able to see some of these spin-ups. We can't nail down where the rain bands exactly are going to set up and where that spin-up exactly could occur, but that's just the big picture here. As all of these rain bands are kind of sweeping across the state, we will get some of these mini spin-ups. Now, they could just end up being radar-indicated rotation, but with those could end up dropping some sort of tornado on the ground. We've seen some of that debris indicated, but at this point we haven't had any confirmation of any defined or certain tornado activity that has been on the ground. So we continue to monitor that, but you know, this is the area that we're concerned with right now. So you can see it's a relatively small little section here, but still we have that couplet as it's kind of moved out of actually where the tornado warning is right now. This is what we're watching though, and these are the close things that we keep an eye on here, because that's just a very small section of the radar, but it gives us that indication that there's some spin happening in the atmosphere. They're really right between Gardner, Buchanan, and really right along Highway 17. So, you know, hopefully folks have been heeding our forecast. They're not out today, and hopefully people don't have a reason to be, but it's really important to note that these spin-ups, these tornado warnings can happen at any point through the day today.
They just reissued that warning to go till 12:30.
Okay, well, as I was just saying, that the rotation moved out of the actual warned area. Now you can kind of see what the National Weather Service has done. They've just kind of followed in line with where we expect it to go. And, you know, if it is still traveling mostly due north,
it's moving north at 40 miles per hour. There is a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado 10 miles south of Wauchula. Okay, so right along that 17, which exactly what you've been showing. So it looks like this dangerous storm will be near Wauchula in about 4.5 minutes, give or take. So anybody, this is what we were talking about, anybody along Highway 17 from Bowling Green southward, I need you to stay inside, okay? Now you get into Highway 17, and while it is not a major highway, a lot of folks travel up and down Highway 17 every single day, so there's more than likely some folks on there, and that's why I'm telling you, if you live from Buchanan to Bowling Green, hey, how about Fort Meade as well? I want you guys to stay inside, because it's that particular cell Val, moving north at 40 miles per hour, almost right along Highway 17.
Yeah, and important to note that because, you know, we do have these areas that are in the warning, but we keep seeing them being extended more off to the north, more off to the west, depending on where that storm is moving. So even though maybe you're close to it, not in the immediate area, it's not out of the question that we won't see more of these trigger, depending on, you know, what we're tracking with the storm and the general motion of it. So better safe than sorry for all those areas, as Dave mentioned. Fort Meade not included in that, but this is kind of the general area where we are watching this storm to be headed to. So not out of the question, like we just saw, that the watch will get kind of extended more to the north as this storm kind of continues to travel up to these areas, where notice not a whole lot of action so far as we look into Polk County. Haven't seen too many of those rain bands moving through so far, but that's exactly what these are. They're going to start to rotate up north into these areas. We've already seen some of those kind of moving through parts of Hillsborough County. You can kind of see some of that activity where we were thinking maybe some rotation would try and move into there. Luckily, it did not, but some of those bands starting to move through those areas. So Polk County, we'll be closely keeping an eye on you as the southern edge of that now included in this warning, which is set to run till 12:30.
Yes, 12:30 or so. You want to let's put a track on that. Let's kind of see from where the rotation is northward, and this is why it's just the outer band. It's interesting because the next heavier rain band not producing the severe weather, but is producing the flooding rains. That's why these systems, they're very multifaceted. And inland locations, you've got to realize that you're dealing with this potential for isolated tornadoes. Meanwhile, along the coast, it's the storm surge and it's the flooding rains. So different things are impacting different people this morning. And there's your track on this particular tornadic situation.
Yeah, and as we look to the coast, as you're kind of mentioning, Dave, seeing our weather cameras, they're shaking around. We've got the white caps on the water. We're really just getting going with Tropical Storm Debby with our tornado watch until 8 o'clock tonight. So it's a day to stay inside. Make sure you're staying up to date with the forecast, and make sure you have a way to get alerts because, you know, as we were just kind of talking about, may not have any of that rain kind of moving into your immediate area, but if you're in line to potentially be included in that, you could all of a sudden have a tornado warning issued for your area. So don't want you to be caught off guard. It's important for you to know kind of where your safe place might be. So if you're under these advisories, of course, all up and down Highway 17, the areas we've been kind of highlighting and mentioning here, and all of the cities here in this potential track map, stay inside. Go to your safe place. We want you inside, not near any windows. That's very important. We don't want you kind of looking outside, seeing if you can see anything, any activity, very rain wrapped. So it's not like you're going to be going outside and seeing a tornado, Dave.
And an interesting moving north at about 40 miles per hour. And typically when we're getting storms, they're not coming in and moving south to north like that. But this band of rain is sort of pinwheeling around the entire circulation of Tropical Storm Debby. And you can really see it. You can see these little pop-up reds next to the greens. These are what are triggering these tornado warnings because the radar is looking and is saying, oh my goodness, right here, we've got ourselves a rotation. And that rotation now is right along Highway 17 into Hardy County, so around the Wauchula area, the Brownville area, then eventually going up into Bowling Green. This cell started off southeast of Arcadia, so it's been kind of holding together and just kind of pinwheeling and spinning around, and it is very small, and I understand that. But what I'm trying to say, listen, from Bowling, let's just say Fort Meade, southward along 17, just hang inside for a little bit, okay? Let's just get this chance for severe weather past you, okay? And it should be for Wauchula. It's probably going to be right about now in the next couple of minutes. So if you're in Wauchula right now and you are watching, please just stay inside. Don't venture to the windows, okay? We're not sure if this is just kind of circulating like this in the clouds or if there's something on the ground. But either way, when that warning goes out, it's your job to just stay inside and just relax and let this pass. And it should be gone through the Wauchula area, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, okay? And then you'll just get back to your typical little rounds of rain after that, at least the way that looks now. Right, Val?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that's really, you know, as we've been talking about that area of interest, that red-green kind of hugging together there right between Moffett and Buchanan, it's been able to hang on as it has moved quite a bit. We can kind of put this back and you can kind of just see the issuing of that tornado warning as it started, you know, south and east of Arcadia and kind of continues to follow the track of those rain bands, now just kind of following that track of that and issuing more of these warnings ahead of the areas in line for that potential rotation. So as Dave was mentioning, you know, it's something we're closely watching. It doesn't necessarily mean we have a tornado on the ground, but these are the areas where we see it start this way on radar.
Let's check that debris tracker. See real quick if anything's being picked up on there. And I'm not, you know, it's sometimes it can be very difficult, but you sort of say it's not
too much. Yeah.
But earlier today, we did have a tornado warning where it looked like something was picked up and some debris was in the air, but that is gone by now. So there are many different ways that we can look inside this storm with the debris tracker, with looking at the winds inside this storm as well. So that's the one great thing about the radar. But the other thing is that no matter how much I look at this radar and this and that, it's hard for us to say it's on the ground without getting that visual proof. I don't want you to find that visual proof for me, Wauchula, because I want you inside. I want you to stay inside in those interior rooms and just stay away from the windows. You can look and see the rotation that these storms have taken. Val, that's an incredible map to show the history of how these storms have been moving from really south to north and bringing with them that rotation.
Yeah, you can kind of see what we're talking about there. Right along that path, and that's exactly where we've seen those watches and warnings be triggered, and same with this Nocatee area. These are kind of the areas of rotation and where they have traveled to. So it really kind of is, when we flip this over to the radar, you can kind of see some of the rain bands that have moved through these areas where we have been able to see some of that activity spin up. So that's really gonna be the case with all of these rain bands. They will all have the potential for some sort of rotation. We just can't rule that out, especially as we are on the side of the storm where we typically expect some of these short-lived tornadic activity, some of these just tornadic spin-up areas, and that's what we've seen in these outer rain bands so far. But you know, we look to the coast where we've got some more on the way.
Well, I can now say good afternoon, everybody. So we're here at almost 10 minutes past 12. And, of course, we are on the air for a tornado warning, which you can see around the Wauchula area. That particular cell has been a tornado-warned cell since it was south of DeSoto County, and it just keeps riding north. And that's why we're going to stay with this. And right along Highway 17 is the area of concern, basically from about Zolfo Springs northward. That's why everybody along Highway 17 in Hardy County and even southwestern Polk County up to Fort Meade. Let's get inside. Let's get into our interior rooms. Even though it's a very small circulation, if I can just get you all to stay inside for 20 minutes, then we're all going to be okay, right? We just let this ride across and to the north. It's moving pretty quickly, Val. Well, 40 mile per hour. I mean, that's a very strong forward movement.
Yeah, and you know, it's a good thing to note as, you know, the other areas of rotation that we were watching, they kind of spun up and spun back down pretty quickly. This is the one that has really been able to hang on for a relatively long amount of time as it's kind of continued to track through these two counties, and you can see the issuance of those advisories. So far, not too much wind or rain, rather, with this system. As we kind of zoom in a little bit more, it is relatively small here on radar. We've got some other strong rain bands to the coast there, but it's where we have the rotation that's a concern. So we kind of flip that over to right over Zolfo Springs, moving pretty quickly though. Just 2 or so minutes ago, this was to the south of Moffett. So you can just see what those quick winds do for these systems. It's going to be just a quick carrying of that up to the north here over the next maybe 20 minutes or so.
Oh, and it makes sense, too, because first of all, that particular cell is spinning. Everything is rotating around the center of a tropical storm. So, I mean, you're going to get more of these. I mean, unfortunately, there'll be more of these very isolated tornadoes, more than likely over the next several hours, and then it'll extend northward, and it'll be areas north of Orlando, and then eventually up toward Jacksonville. It's just the way tropical systems are, and every tropical system is different. You know, with Beryl, there were so many tornadoes. Other tropical systems don't have as many tornadoes, but the point is that we've seen multiple tornado warnings so far today, and they've been these very isolated cells, sort of on the outer edge of these very distant rain bands coming in and whipping around Tropical Storm Debby. And this is the one warning that we have for you right now. This warning, and I mean, this thing is kind of trucking right along Highway 17. And it really is running right up through Zolfo Springs and Wauchula, and eventually up toward Bowling Green. So that's why I'm telling you, everybody here along Highway 17 is shutting it down for a few minutes. We're just staying inside. We're not going out, staying in interior room, and let's just let this pass because it's pretty much done through Buchanan, okay? It's about done in Moffett, and this rotation will be moving through Wauchula in the next few minutes. And if you've never been up and down Highway 17, it is a pretty well-traveled road. There's a lot of population in this area. So I'm hoping that you folks that are watching me in Hardy County now and southwestern Polk County, if you guys could just get inside, just kind of stay inside as this, again, this little rotating storm just continues to move. This is Highway 17. It's moving like it's going right up Highway 17, so kind of a strange movement as well. We'll put that in. There you go. And to the right here, you can see some of the towns. You may not be able to see some of them. I'll read a few of them for you. Around the Wauchula area in 5 minutes. Bowling Green in about 14 minutes. Fort Meade, again, if this holds together, Fort Meade, maybe about 24 minutes. Brewster, 28 minutes. So, again, that's we extended it beyond the tornado warning just to give you guys ahead of it a quick heads up. Fort Meade, Brewster, Baird area, maybe about 15 minutes or so. You just want to kind of stay inside and let that circulation pass you to the north. Valerie?
And another thing worth noting, you know, as we're getting more of these reports coming in, looks like St. Pete Beach now we're getting reports of flooding roadways along Gulf Boulevard, nearly over the seawalls on the intercoastal. So already all of these high water impacts starting to pick up. That's one of the other big things other than this potential tornadic activity. This is the storm, the potential that has the potential to spin up a tornado. And, you know, it's important to note, you know, not trying to go to the windows to see anything, especially in these areas, especially not going outside, as, you know, even if we're not talking about a tornado on the ground, there can still be flying debris. And that is certainly enough to cause damage, to injure someone. So it's important to think that there's a lot of things happening right now. Even though this may look like one little area on the radar, we've got a lot underway here. We've got the rain that's going to be an impact. We've got the wind that's going to continue to be an impact. So any areas of interest for these storms to potentially see some tornadoes should be taken seriously, because it's an event like this where, you know, every storm is different. And, you know, it is not unheard of that we get quite a few tornado spin-ups on this side of the storm. So luckily, no reports of anything defined as far as any reports of a tornado touching the ground. Saw a little bit of debris detected with that storm that was north of here, but it's right over Wauchula. This is the one spot right now where this warning is set to expire in 15 minutes or so. We'll switch over to the velocity because that's the important thing that we are talking about right now. This is where the winds are kind of rotating in two different directions, and that's what we're looking for, Dave, when we start to talk about where the spin up can happen for a tornado to extend from the storm and touch ground. So that's what we're close to keeping an eye on.
So if you watch this, if you back up for a second, okay, with the radar being up here, okay, this green are the winds moving toward the radar. Okay, makes sense, right? The red, it's moving away. That is indicated there. When those two are next to each other like that, it's what we call gate-to-gate shear, and you're getting what we call a couplet. That's all fancy term for it looks like it's rotating. Okay, so that's our fancy term for that. At least that individual cell is rotating. When the radar detects this, when it says, hey, I see this here, boom, a warning is most likely issued. And in this case, of course, because you do see that particular shear going on. The only concern I would have right now for this is that it's moving right over Highway 17. It's not, I mean, this is a rural area, but that is a well-traveled road. I've traveled it many times myself, especially in the Wauchula area. So for those of us in the Wauchula region, I'm going to stop the radar for a second, and I want to talk about some, oops, hold on a second, let me get rid of that. These particular cells and some of these streets. So we want to stay ahead of this. So going up into the Bowling Green area and Fort Greene, excuse me, Val, it's like, you know, County Road 664, places like that.
Yeah, we got State Highway 62 that looks like it's in the mix. So traveling up Highway 17, that's the general thought of where this storm is going to go. But you got all those intersecting roads and some other areas right around District Line Road, it looks like. We've got Walker Road right outside Baird. So some of these areas traveling up Old Bowling Green Road. These are kind of the areas in line. We want to make sure if you're in or near any of these areas, you're in your safe place now. We've got potential rotation just to the south of you, and it's heading in these areas. So Highway 17 is really kind of right where it is and right where it is expected to continue traveling here over the next potentially 15 minutes, if not longer, depending on how it holds together.
Why does that thing travel from DeSoto County into Hardy County and still continually hold together? By the way, if you're just tuning in and Val just mentioned the name of your street or something like that, what we're doing is we're just naming places that we need to take some shelter, okay? Not necessarily that there's a tornado headed for your street, but with the rotation like that, it wouldn't take much for something to touch the ground, at least briefly. So that's why everybody within this warned area that we've been talking about, everybody up and down 17 from south of Fort Meade to around the Zolfo Springs area, which means you get inside. I know I say it a million times, but I'm just trying to say it. Just stay inside.
Well, and we know how curious minds work, Dave. You get a tornado warning and people want to go try and find it. That is not what we want. And we still have, let me switch this over from where, notice where the velocity is. I'll go ahead and circle it. Then we'll switch over to the radar, which shows us the actual rain coming down. If there was any sort of rotation, it would be completely wrapped in this heavy rain that's coming down. So it's not going to be one of those things where you might look out your window and see it. We don't want you to do that. We want you in your safe place as this rotation potentially could spin up a tornado with this storm. So that's the reason for the issue of this warning. When we get those, that means it is a storm capable of producing a tornado. And behind that, I'll go ahead and zoom out since our little query's picking up on it, all of the area under a tornado watch until 8 o'clock tonight. So that's important to remember now, because it is that point where the National Weather Service was confident enough that we will get enough of these, say, mini spin-up storms, potential of tornado production through about 8 o'clock tonight. That is that watch.
Yeah, look at that watch. It goes all the way to Tallahassee. And, you know, we were talking about this warning. We got about 12 minutes left for this warning. So we're going to hang with you till at least this warning expires or whatever. They continue it. So a couple other things to know. I think we're at the point, as this storm system is slowly churning up the coast, Valerie, that we just need to tell people, especially along the coast, this may be your time to kind of go relax at home, because we're beginning to get some flooding going on. For instance, flooding is being reported in South Cape Coral. Commercial power out in that area as well. We've had the seawater topping the seawalls at Sunset Beach near Treasure Island, okay? Bayshore Drive is closed from West Gulf Boulevard to Sunset Beach Lake. High water vehicles only. Storm surge now over the canal wall at Tierra Verde. So there are obviously some minor water issues happening right now with some of these heavier bands of rain coming in. And I know we're focusing, of course, on the tornado warning, which is obviously what we do to keep people safe. But I'm also here to tell people along the coast, you know what? You may just want to head back inside and sit it out, because you don't want to be through one of these heavy bands of rain and a 50-mile-per-hour wind gust, and then there's some flooding, and it's just easy to avoid the whole mess. And that would allow emergency vehicles, if they needed to get into these spots as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned that flooding in Cape Coral as we kind of back the radar up over the last hour. It's pretty obvious why we're starting to see some flooding concerns. We've talked about it all morning if you were watching us on Good Day, and we're seeing these storms kind of generally raining over the same area, these bands kind of lifting or rather dropping a lot of rain over these areas. And that is going to be a big concern, is what's called training. When we get these rain bands just kind of continuing to move in the same general direction. And that is one of the risks that comes with a storm like Debby, which is kind of generally at this point on its northward track right up the west coast. This is expected to make a turn to the northeast, but that's going to be by the time the circulation is starting to move north of Tampa Bay. So we'll expect more storm surge, more flooding conditions later on today. But right now, it's this tornado watch that we are concerned about with this storm. If you're just now joining us, kind of right from Bowling Green down to Wauchula, this is the area of interest that we're watching, expected to expire in about 10 minutes. And a little bit of good news as we look at the radar velocity here. It does look like this little area, I mean, it's still very noticeable, but it looked a little bit more put together just a couple of minutes ago. So I would say this is the trend that we would like to see it taking, Dave, as it kind of continues to skirt right along Highway 17.
Yeah, in fact,
if I turn around and I go to sell that property, the title
or to let it go. But as I was just telling you about 20 minutes ago, if you go back, can we go frame by frame? Is that possible? Like if you go back and you can see how this developed and watch how put together that couplet was, that area of rotation as it's approaching Sulphur Springs, and you go and you can see it's really put together. That's fine. I'm going to follow you on this one. So it comes up and it comes right along Highway 17. And you can see how bright it is. Can you get me in this frame here and watch? We can see how bright, here we go. You see how bright that green and the red are right there. So you're looking at decent rotation. And as it moves up Highway 17, of course, running into some populated areas, Buchanan and Moffett and Zolfo Springs, we're going piece by piece for you. And as you're getting closer to the current frame, you see how it doesn't look as put together as it was before, maybe the best way to say. I hope that's the trend, because see how much different it looked there versus we fast forward the radar to now, and you can see how it looks now just to kind of the west of Highway 17. Nonetheless, we've got a tornado warning out for Green Springs, Bowling Green. Right now, you're in that interior room, okay? That's where I need you to be. And then if this was to continue, then you got from Brewster over to Fort Meade. But I wanted to show how the evolution of that has happened, and you can see it moving along Highway 17 like that.
Yeah, and definitely the trend that we would like to see it take is this has been that one area where as we backed it up, you can really see all of the tornado warnings that have come with it. So it started there, and then just we've kind of followed along with that little radar indicated area of concern as all of those warnings kind of expanding north of that. So we'll kind of back it up, or rather pull it forward to where we are now. A much better look as far as that area. I mean, you can still clearly see what we would consider some rotation. It is losing some of its steam, though. So let's go ahead and still put our track map in here and kind of talk about where this is heading, some of the areas that might be in line, because we can't rule out what might happen in the next couple of minutes, you know, depending on what the National Weather Service is seeing. They may not extend this, but right now we've got an area that would be capable of producing some tornadic activity. So we're going to keep a close watch on this. About 7 minutes or so is when we would expect that to expire, but these are the areas in line if this does hold together. We're talking, you know, around Bowling Green within the next couple of minutes, then it kind of scoots off to Baird, Tiger Bay, closer to 20 minutes out, and then Homeland area, we're talking more 25-ish minutes to you if this were to continue to hold together as a tornado warned storm.
And if that circulation starts to veer west like it is of Highway 17, then of course you're taking kind of Fort Meade and Bartow out of play on that one, which is completely fine. But I'm just hoping that the trend that we've been talking about is that it's just starting to weaken a little bit. But again, until that little polygon goes away, we're just going to hang out and talk to you. And that's not the only issue that we have going on right now. We have been getting multiple reports that along the coast, and you see this line of rain. You see that line of rain from Venice going south to Sanibel. That is an extremely heavy rain band. So within that rain band, and we've been talking about this, 4 to 6 inches of rain could come down per hour. I mean, look, what we can do is we can pixelate that. Right around Englewood, for instance, you've got a rain 5.5 inches of rain per hour. Now, that band may not last an hour, but even if it lasts a half hour, what are you going to get? A little over 2.5 inches of rain in short order. This is what we're concerned about with the flash flooding, is that you're going to get these persistent rain bands over and over and over, and that's going to create, Val, problems right along the coast to go along with our problems that we're having inland, right?
Yeah, and two totally separate issues ongoing here. We look more to the west where it is the heavy rain, it is the flooding right now. But notice I kind of dropped in a rainfall rate for that storm near Arcadia, much less impactful. We're talking not even 2 inches per hour. Compare that to areas along the coast, 5-6 hours, or 5-6 rather inches per hour. But I will mention, as we're continuing to be on high alert, the reports coming in, Dave, and we did just get an alert that a ham spotter, that's some folks that we rely on for reports near Wauchula, reporting a funnel cloud near Bowling Green at this time. So this is what we're talking about. This is what we're watching.
Yep. And let's go back to that cell and do the velocity on that. Yeah, so at 12:25, you've got a report of a funnel cloud. It completely makes sense given the way that storm structure looks. With that said, though, it does look like that rotation is beginning to weaken. Now, that doesn't mean in Bowling Green or Fort Meade we're just going to run outside. No, we're still going to stay inside. We're going to stay inside until this warning is over and we're sure that whatever that may be is done with. So around Dock Coyle Road and Hobb Road and Bostic, and you're starting to see that rotation wane a little bit, which is actually a good thing.
Yeah, and really kind of like right along now Northwest County Line Road, where that intersects with Highway 17, and further off just to the west of that. These are the neighborhoods that we are closely watching for, right where that funnel cloud report was. Now you can see where that couplet is in comparison. So it was spotted in Bowling Green, certainly very close to the area where we are talking about right now. There's that little couplet there. So right around Pool Road, looks like College Hill Road, some of those areas just north of State Highway 62. This is the area that we are concerned with for any potential spin-ups from this little area where that funnel cloud report just happened. That's just outside Bowling Green and Torrey.
There was an update to that report, by the way. I just wanted to tell you, and it said the funnel cloud has not made touchdown. That's what they just wrote.
Has not made a touchdown.
That's what the spotter said. I'm not saying it hasn't or it couldn't, but at least right now, I want you to understand that there's likely a funnel cloud, and it makes complete sense as you look at the velocities. And we've been talking about just this beginning to weaken a little bit. It looks like the rotation is beginning to weaken a little bit, which would be very, very nice. We have another minute and a half, a little bit more of this tornado warning, and let's see what they're going to do, whether they expire this warning or they carry it on further based on the fact that they had that funnel cloud. So we'll stick with you for another couple of minutes. We'll keep an eye on this one, and I hope everybody's having a good Sunday afternoon. You knew this was going to be a long day, and then we're kind of just beginning with all of this very heavy rain. A multifaceted system, inland locations, we've been dealing with tornado warnings, and now we're getting some water being pushed right up against the coast with some of these heavy rain bands, right along the coast, Val.
Yeah, and we'll kind of zoom out again for any of you who are just now joining us. That tornado watch, that's now in effect for a good portion of the state of Florida. All the areas in red here, so that's kind of just the south of Alligator Alley, all the way up the west coast, up the Big Bend, includes Tallahassee, Jacksonville, and even part of Georgia, because this storm, it's our problem now, but this moves up into the Florida-Georgia line at the end of the weekend, early next week, and this is going to cause much more problems up into the southeast. And, originally we were looking at potentially this kind of curving a little bit more to the south, but Tropical Storm Debby, no real change in thought with the track in the 11 a.m. update. Dave and I haven't had too much time to look at it as we have been tracking.
We haven't even had a chance to look at the 11 o'clock update, but you're right. There's nothing that's really, really different. Can you back out again, Val? I want to show one thing real quick. And you can actually pick the center. You can pick out where the center of Tropical Storm Debby is. And it's right about here. You see it? It's right about there. You see how everything's kind of pinwheeling around? It's going to try to close off this section of the storm as it's trying to strengthen, it's trying to organize. It's mostly an eastern side storm, but it's a very large system, which is going to take it longer. Meanwhile, at the surface, though, we've been getting winds close to 65 miles per hour around where the center of this is. And notice how all of this rain being on the eastern side like that, you're getting a tremendous amount of heavy rain, 2-3 inches of rain already from areas like Englewood and to the south. So this whole area, and it's all just going to skirt the entire west coast. You're watching in Pasco County and Hernando County. Your impacts, or the strongest impacts for you folks, are going to be much, much later today and tonight as we watch the impacts of this system ride all the way up the west coast. It looks like, did they cancel that tornado warning, Val? It looks like they may have canceled that tornado warning.
Okay.
So how about we do this? Okay. We will be here all afternoon. Val is here, and then Nash and Paul are going to be here. If there are more tornado warnings, we are going to come in and we're going to let you know about those.